Okay, hello everyone and welcome. I'm super excited for today. This kind of really gets to some of the core principles of sound design that I think about. Obviously, we're not doing synthesis. We're working with samples, and so effects are going to really be our best friend. So there are a couple of effects that I'm going to show you how I like to use. So I'm going to go over here to audio effects, and we'll click there, and you can see in here we have all these different folders. So the first one we're going to think about is a distortion plugin, and it's in Drive and Color, and it's called Amp. So we're going to use that. But of course, before we get to that, let's get some sounds. You can use obviously whatever you'd like. So I'm going to use some stuff from our class sample pack again. So I'll drag a couple things in here. Of course, the famous flushing the toilet sample. Let's see.
Assuming it is.
Perfect.
I'll get the perfect. Great. Wood door glitch. What is this? I'm going to get this one environmental one. Okay. So the first thing we're going to deal with is distortion. And one of the distortions that I particularly like is this one called Amp. So to use these effects, what we do is we go over to our effects and we simply drag it onto our track. And then you'll see it appears here at the bottom. And so now, obviously, if we double click on a clip, we will get our clip details at the bottom. And then if we double click on the track, we will go back to seeing where the sound effects are. Now, for this particular one, there isn't a ton that you need to mess around with or really know how it works, but just having some sort of distortion can be really good because that's also going to help out, it's going to help get more interesting results out of the other effects we look at. So let's listen. All right. So now with these effects, just a couple things to be aware of. So there's two things you're going to see on almost all of the effects, which are good to keep in mind. One is this little dot at the top. So if you click it, it's going to turn off the effect. So we're not going to hear it anymore. Now, another thing you're going to see on almost all of them is something called dry wet, right? And so what dry wet does is it allows you to blend the dry signal, which is how we refer to the clip without the effect, and the wet signal, right? So if we were to put this at 50%, say, it's kind of like, we were playing the original thing at 50% volume and then the original thing with this and the affected thing, right? The thing with this effect at 50% volume. That might not be exactly how they sum, but it's something like that, right? You're going to get a 50-50 mix of the effect. And yeah, so in terms of these knobs, you can click and drag to turn them. You can also click and then you can type. So for example, with this, I typed 50 and then it went to 50. And then if you click and you hit delete, it will return it to its like original or default position. Great. Okay, so let's listen. So with this effect, the main thing for you to look at, honestly, is just the different effect modes. You can begin to mess around with this other stuff, but the modes are going to do the bulk of the work. So let's listen as we go through this. So let's listen to like this one piece here. So you can see they all have a different character to them. Obviously, this is called amp because it's kind of replicating it's an emulation of like a guitar amp, but I find that it's one of my favorite distortion plugins for from Ableton. And then, of course, as we go through, we can begin to look at some of this other stuff. So gain, right? You're going to get a more distorted sound. So let's listen. And you can see, of course, that when we mouse over stuff over here in the info view, it shows us what it does, right? So obviously, bass, middle, and treble, that's the low, the middle, and the high parts of the sound. So we can mess around with that a little too. Turn the bass all the way up. I don't know if there's a ton of bass in these, but middle should. Right, so we get more of that harmonic sort of texture. And here we should get that nice crispy. And then presence. Let's see what presence is. Presence is an additional tone control for mid and high frequencies in the power amp stage. So it's going to give you a little bit more of that crispiness, right? A little bit more high end. You sort of hear that. You can mess around with this other stuff if you want, and then just to give you a sense of the dry wet. Right, so if we turn dry wet to 0, it just sounds normal. That's basically the same as not having the effect on. So you can see there, I'm just kind of layering in that really extreme distortion setting. Okay, so now the most important thing with these effects is you'll probably, as we go through, I'll be making some fun stuff, hopefully. And a lot of times you might think, oh, well, like, this doesn't sound that good or that interesting. Like, how do we actually get it to sound really cool? And the key thing is always, always, always going to be modulation or automation and resampling, right? So this is really the key to any sort of sound design process that works with sampling, in my opinion, or at least as far as I know right now. And I don't think it's something that can really be replicated super well outside of that very iterative process. So we are now going to learn the next really important thing, which is how exactly we resample. And what do I mean by resampling, right? So resampling is basically re-recording the audio with this effect on it. So the way we can do that is we will go to our audio channels, or our audio tracks here. We'll hit Command T, or go to Create New Audio Track. And there we go, New Audio Track. And then you're going to go to over here. If you don't see this area, make sure you have this I. If you don't see this stuff where it says External In, make sure that this I/O button is clicked. And you want to change that to resampling. And if you want to be even really fast, you can click on that, and then you can hit R, and it will go to resampling, and you can hit return and enter, and there we go. So quick. And then to arm this track, we are going to hit that red button. And then we are going to go back, click back to the very beginning here, and we are going to click play. Or we're going to click this record button up here to start recording. And here's where we need to be a little bit, or we don't have to be too quick, but here's where there's a little bit of finessing required. So we're going to hit this record button, right? And you can see it's starting to record out what was going on here with that effect on it. So why do we want to do this? The reason we want to do this is because we can hit record, and then we can start changing all of those different, we can start changing those effects. So if we click there, and now I'm going to go back to here, and now I'm going to go down to the effect, and I'm going to change it around. And I kid you not, what I'm doing right now, really, I'm just randomly clicking around. Okay, so literally just randomly clicking around, and now we have all this kind of automation, or we sort of have all these changing effects recorded there. So now what we can literally do, let's embrace what we're doing. Let's just click on the old track and hit delete, and literally let's just work with this now. Right? And so we already are starting to get some really cool sounds here, right? Like, listen to this. So we can go through and, of course, apply some of the same stuff we were doing before with warp modes, gain, and pitch. Ooh, look at that. Like, this is just so beautiful. You can imagine taking this, right? I'm just going to move this onto a new track. And doing some of the same stuff we did to it before, right? Or that we talked about in our earlier lessons, right? Right? Now, you may notice, oh, that's really cool, and the pitch shift is happening, right? So why don't we use some of those techniques, right? And why don't we record them in as well, right? So now we're going to do Command T to create a new audio track. We are going to change it to resampling. We are going to arm it. We are going to press record. We're going to go to this, and we are going to turn it a little louder. And then turn it. You can see, once again, I'm just clicking through lots of different random ways. Okay, so then when I delete this, great. So now we have some really cool stuff here, right? And so, you know, at this point, we're starting to have some cool stuff going on. So, you know, you could potentially go through and start cherry picking stuff out, but I want to go even farther. But let's listen a little. Like, look, listen to that. That is just like, that's gold. Right? Like, that's so cool. That's great. Oh, yeah. So we've already got some really fun stuff. So now let's try out a new effect. So another one that I really like. We're gonna talk about actually two in. Oh God, where are they? In delay and loop. They're two that I really like, and two that kind of operate in a similar way, but well, maybe we'll just do one. We'll see. So this first one is called grain delay. This is a great one. I'm very into this one right now. So you're gonna go in here, and there's one or two things you're just gonna do every time. So the first thing is hit sync. So hit sync, drag it all the way down, then drag feedback all the way up. Okay. Now, starting from here, the main things I want you to mess around with are the spray and the frequency. So let's listen. see as we increase the spray, it kind of gets like almost wider and bigger. It's almost like it's more like it's sprayed, right? It's more like you're twisting the nozzle on a hose and it's going to the wider spray, whereas here it's like a sharp bit, right? And then change this along with the frequency. So it can be very fun to do things where they're both quite low. Oh, there we go. Now we can get some of these metallic sounds that everyone loves. So, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new track. I'm going to go to resampling, and let's just record in a bunch of changes here. And then you can start to mess with the others a bit if you want. So, I mean, like, at this point, we have some really great stuff. So, yeah, I'm just turn this up a little. Like, there you go. Like, there you go. You've got it. If you want to make some really cool electronic music, you can just go ahead, grab like some crazy kick. Let's see, like, right, grab one of these. Maybe we'll put an amp on it, right, and then get like a snare that's really crazy, maybe, or like get like a piece of metal, right, and also put some amp on that, and there you go. You got it, right? So we'll just arrange this. There you go. Cool sound design focused electronic music. Or even if you get like an 808, put that in here instead. There we really go. Yeah, maybe that one like this. I mean, that was pretty good though. So it's really that easy. Like, honestly, that doesn't sound too bad. I mean, you know, there's some mixing stuff we might want to do, but like, you know, cool, solid idea for a track there. Okay, so why don't we go even more crazy with it, and let's see. Let's go back and look. What's another one that might be fun to talk about? Some of those are cool. We don't need to worry about that stuff. Oh yeah, we should probably talk about should we? No, maybe not actually. I wish they had the old. Yeah, I guess we'll talk about another like very like basic effect that I feel like is just a good one to know about, which is just reverb, right? So let's drag that in, and you can hear that. And so the two key parameters here for you to look at, I know there's a lot going on here, but basically just decay time and dry wet, right? And so the more bigger the decay time is, the bigger a space it will sound like stuff is in. Actually, you know what? If we're gonna do this, rather than doing this one, let's look at echo then, because echo actually has some. Or you know what? Should we look at shifter? Yeah, let's look at shifter, right? So shifter. This is kind of pitch shifting, but it's got a couple of these different modes, which can be really fun. So obviously, right, so that's just kind of our pitch shifting. We can do that in the clip. But if we go to frequency mode, you can kind of get a lot more stuff going on. So basically just worry about the course here. And then ring can be really cool. So this is a ring modulator. And you can turn on the drive. But the biggest thing is that I don't need to... the reason I'm like not too worried about... Like what I want you to do though is just go in here and get a bunch of random stuff, right? So let's get a reverb. Right? And let's pick like another random one, like, I don't know, vinyl distortion, right? And then let's go in and just, you don't really, I know there's so many knobs and I feel like, especially when I was starting out, I really wanted to know like, how does everything work and what does everything do? But really, you know, just go in, resample and mess around with stuff and just find things that seem good and just make sure you have the recording turned on, right? So we'll go in here, we'll move this around. Oh, okay, look, so it looks like that. Kind of changes things. We'll make the decay time really big. And then you can also try changing around the order of them. Ooh, that is really cool. So, really cool stuff there. Really cool stuff there. So again, let's listen. Again, we'll sort of turn this on. It's got some crazy looking waveforms here. And again, we'll get out some 808s. Get some hats. Oh yeah, there we go. Great. Actually, no, maybe perk loop. I will make some of these available to you guys. Right. So there's like a lot of fun directions you can go just by then adding some pretty basic drums. There we go. Look, now we've got like a freaking Gabber track. get a nice sort of gabber thing going here. Look, like this is as good as most techno. Or like very industrial kind of, there's sort of very monotonous industrial techno that is kind of rampant these days. But like there's a ton of basements in New York where people would love to listen to this. Let's kind of chop this up so we can get this bit a bit louder. And then obviously, right now we just have this like big soundscapey sort of thing. But obviously, like what you'll ideally want to do is go in and start chopping some bits up, right? So let's take so maybe we'll take like this bit and we'll put it over here and we can like reverse it and we can maybe like turn it up in pitch. Yeah, right. And so start to take some of these different bits and we can like layer them. So maybe I just want this to be going the whole time as well. Let's find something else that's cool. It's kind of cool. So maybe we can go in here. Right, and then here we'll take out the kick and maybe we can put in this, but we'll put it on texture mode. We'll make it twice as long. So there we go. Got a little carried away. Some, kind of like sort of industrial techno sort of stuff there, which again is as much as I was kind of poking fun at that genre a little bit, it's a great way to start practicing just because it's working with all of these loops and you can structure things out well. And again, right, as I said, we can, it's sort of structurally, it's easy to be like, okay, now we'll repeat this and we'll, take this part and pitch it up 12 and, we'll get rid of these and, we'll make the kick like only every other time, right? And just creating these like simple variations and, you can basically just keep doing that, right? And so we'll take this and again, remember Shift Command D will duplicate the whole thing, right? And now this time we'll take this and make this really long and we'll take this out and we'll pitch this up and maybe we'll continue just that part, right? And so now we go from so there you go. For this week's assignment, there's more on the Discord, but basically, structuring something out, or you can just make a bunch of crazy sounds. But really iterate on that whole process. And obviously, once you make something, now you know this trick. Don't be afraid to then go and resample that, right? So we can resample this whole thing, right? And so maybe we go and I know I keep seeming like I'm about to end this, and then I keep just doing more stuff. As you can tell, I like doing this. I think it's very fun, right? So now we have this bit, right? And let's maybe right? And so we can make some weird, just using like our normal tools, we can make some weird variations, right? Right. Yeah, right, something like that. Right, so one thing with resample is you can kind of quickly mangle things up. But you could also just say, like, let's say we reverse this and we go to texture mode and we turn these both like down and we make this twice as long. Right, so there we go. Like, that's another really cool sound. Right, and then it's like, not to sound like a broken record, right? But then you can like start this process all over again and never make any music, just make these little clips. But no, you know, and then at some point you find something you really like, and then this. Right, and then maybe we resample this part now. Right. So, you get it. You just keep going crazy with this process, and there's no science to it. There's no, like, I think people have this idea of like, oh, you know, this person, they really understand the effects, and, you know, so they kind of are thinking about this way they're going to manipulate sound. And yeah, some people do that, and that does work to a certain extent, but it takes a lot longer, and I don't think it's as effective or as efficient. Obviously, you begin to notice patterns, right? Like with the grain delay, I was like, always do this, right? So you begin to start to figure things out. But I think it's the easiest way to get there. I'm kind of much more of a fan of a little bit more of a shoot first, ask questions later approach. So yeah, cool guys. Good stuff.